It's Monday night, and you know what that means. The Jersey First Television Network proudly brings to you the latest edition of Real Talk. And certainly, ladies and gentlemen, I am the generational talent in Garden State Media and your leader for trustworthy journalism. That's right, it's me, folks, Fernando Uribe. Happy Monday. Hope you're all doing well. I want to thank you all for making this a part of your Monday night viewing from wherever and however you may be tuning in, of course, on all of your social media platforms. We appreciate your support here every single week on Jersey First TV. Folks, and again, I can't say it enough. If you haven't done so already, make sure you like the show on Facebook. Of course, follow us on Instagram and X. Don't forget to subscribe to Jersey First on YouTube. And of course, whether you get your podcasts on Spotify or SoundCloud, download Jersey First and all our great content as we come to you every single week here with, again, folks, the best independent media anywhere in New Jersey. It's always here. Real Talk via Jersey First TV. Folks, and I say it all the time, I'm leading the way here, again, educating and advocating for the residents of our great state here in New Jersey. Folks, it's always Real Talk front and center with Jersey First TV. As I mentioned before, brand new episodes air live every Monday night. Check your local listings, of course, for start times. As folks, I can't say it enough. Well, the establishment media continues to lie to you every single day. Guess who will not? That's right. It's me, Fernando Uribe. We appreciate your support here at Real Talk on the Jersey First Television Network. Folks, you want to stick around for final thoughts? Well, needless to say, it's been a busy news cycle for the last few days, and I'll have a lot to say about what happened in Minneapolis last week with Renee Good. And folks, I'll tell you the truth, where two things can be true at the same time. What happened was tragic last week. We're seeing kids being orphaned. We're seeing a partner being left without a spouse, and that's tragic, and that shouldn't have happened. But it was also avoidable by not engaging in dumb behavior. Again, folks, two things can be true at the same time. I'll tell you really the truth about what happened last week in Minneapolis, and quite frankly, how it's being corrupted along partisan lines. That's not the case here, folks. I'll tell you the truth, as I always do every single week here on Real Talk. And folks, of course, when we talk about what happened in Minneapolis last week, we'll also talk about there's been no shortage of opinions on the matter, and certainly, especially within establishment media here in New Jersey. When I think about sort of like bad takes in establishment media, well, yes, folks, I think about Max Pizarro with Insider NJ. And then, listen, I got to be honest with you. Let me just give you a little round of applause now, Max. I mean, maybe Michael and Ryan Graham got on your ass to start working a lot earlier, because I don't ever see Max Pizarro working this early in the year. I usually see him working probably when it's a little bit warmer. But sure enough, Max Pizarro left his house to actually do some work last week and cover a protest in Somerville, New Jersey. And yes, folks, if you were expecting a charisma-filled interview and segment, well, believe me, that's not what you can expect from Max Pizarro. I'll tell you more about why that interview and segment was just absolute garbage last week. But what else is new when it comes to Max Pizarro? I'll stick around, folks, for final thoughts on that one for sure. Folks, again, like, comment, and share tonight's episode here. It really helps the show grow and really helps show your support for the leader in independent media here in New Jersey. It's Real Talk with Fernando Uribe via Jersey First TV. Folks, it's a new year, obviously. Just in a couple of days, we'll be having the inauguration ceremonies for two new mayors in Hudson County, of course, in the Mile Square city of Hoboken, and certainly in the largest city in Hudson County, that's in Jersey City. Well, folks, it was a very contentious election season in 2025. And without a doubt, we're going to see what goes on in Jersey City in 2026. And of course, Mayor-elect James Solomon will be sworn in this Thursday inside the theater at New Jersey City University. And of course, he's going to have a 9-0 advantage on the city council. So whether you want to call it a rubber stamp or just a united front with his vision for what Jersey City will be like for the foreseeable future, well, let's talk to one of them who won re-election last month in a runoff. Obviously, she is the incumbent council person in Ward A on the south side of Jersey City. If you're not familiar with it, it's really the Greenville section, folks. She's my good friend and a fan of the show. She's the Honorable Denise Ridley, joining us live tonight here on Real Talk. Councilwoman, Happy New Year. Welcome to Real Talk.
Happy New Year. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it, Councilwoman. Again, how was your holiday?
It was great. Got a little time to relax and spend some time with the family. So that was wonderful.
it was, listen, it was certainly a contentious election season in Jersey City in 2025. It seemed like that election was never ever going to end. I mean, it was like a long cycle. It was like it was kind of going at speed dating and just having a lot of bad girls to sit in front of. That's what it felt like, with a really long cycle. But certainly you won re-election pretty convincingly in the runoff. Tell us what you felt going into election day in November and then certainly into the runoff.
So I make sure I never take any election for granted. We need to run as if we think we are going to lose because you can never get too comfortable in your position. It is the people's choice. You have to make sure that you are adhering to, their concerns and what they are really needing. And sometimes that what you think you might be doing may not be what the people are receiving. So I think that this election was a real opportunity for a multitude of choices. And I am thankful that the people of Ward A made the decision to have me back for a third term, now making me the longest serving Ward A council person.
Well, that kind of leads me to my next question, Councilwoman. Obviously, as the longest tenured member of the council, it would lead me to believe. And again, I am a political scientist, obviously among many other occupations that I occupy right now. But it would lead me to believe that you would seem to be the favorite to be the council president. Obviously, once you're all sworn in on Thursday at NJCU, conventional thinking would lead me to believe that you'll be the council president. I mean, is that fair to say?
I believe that we will find out on Thursday, but as of right now, I do feel strongly in the support from my colleagues. I appreciate the support that I have received, and Thursday we will vote. And wherever that lands, whether it's myself or someone else, we want to make sure that we're supporting that person that will then be leading the council. So I'm
Now,
willing to work with anyone.
now, whether it's you or someone else, again, depending on the vote, as you mentioned, right? Take us through maybe some thoughts here. Obviously, as you enter the new year, the previous council members finished their term. Any thoughts on how we want to look at the legacy of the former council president, Joyce Waterman, who obviously was not able to win, her election for mayor in a very crowded field? Certainly, a lot of people are leaving office this week. What are your thoughts on how we should look back on the legacy of the predecessor of whoever the council president is going to be, but the previous one, Joyce Waterman?
I think that Council President Waterman did a wonderful job. It is something that you don't get a handbook for. So each person makes it their own. There are a lot of changes that she made that were helpful to the council. And with anything, you can always say that we needed more or there was something that was missing. But I believe she did a great job with the hand that she was dealt. Each administration is different. And I think that she worked well within that situation at that time with that particular council and that administration.
Now, Councilwoman, certainly you won the runoff. Again, you're going to be being sworn in again. Obviously, you're already the incumbent there in Ward A convincing and decisive victory there for Mayor-elect James Solomon, along with the rest of the ticket. And really, it's a 9-0 advantage for the mayor-elect, obviously, as he takes office this Thursday. And the easy part is running for office. The hard part is governing and legislating, as they say, moving forward from Thursday on. What was your bread and butter during your campaign? And really, for your constituents in Ward A, what are some of the things you can brag about your record and certainly things you want to tackle in the next term?
So for me, I believe that experience matters and people would like to see real work being done. And I've put in a lot of real work since being in office, particularly around the Bayfront redevelopment project. That is moving forward. We had the groundbreaking. We are having a job fair on this coming Tuesday with the building trades that is open to everyone, Bethune Center from 9 to 1. We need people to come out because local development should have local residents on these jobs, and that's what we're trying to achieve. In addition to that, I've worked with the mayor-elect on some CCRB legislation, and we know that that has not passed at the state. just moving different things forward. The firehouse in the Bergen Lafayette area, that should be open by spring. We are leading the charge on recreation centers. There was an article this week with us securing $1 million for the recreation center in Ward A. So just making sure that we are really invested, because it's one thing to say we need these things. Anyone can say we need affordable housing. Anyone can say we need recreation and we need more of something, but what are we actually doing? And that's what I learned in my second term, that I can complain and say that we need these things, but I felt like no one was coming to save us. So if I believe we need these things, then I had to do some of the work. It's easy to say maybe the director of public safety or any other department should be making sure the firehouse is open, or someone else should be making sure that we have affordable housing. But this second term, I really decided to dig in and figure out how I can move the process along without just sitting back and complaining.
A lot of different coalitions came together, Councilwoman, during this past election, obviously, where it led to a decisive win for James Solomon in the runoff.
Mhm.
A lot of people had him winning the election outright. Clearly, in a very crowded field, that was not going to be the case. Certainly, I mean, obviously, you're not going to get 50+1. But without a doubt, obviously, when it came to December, and, one thing is, early voting, right? And mail in voting. And it wasn't just early voting for a weekend. I mean, we had a whole week of early voting, right?
Yes.
This past November, obviously, and mail in ballots, as well as voting on election day. That was very different going into the runoff. It was like really the week right after Thanksgiving. We're a little sluggish. We've gained some pounds from turkey and wine, and we're a little sluggish. It's a holiday season picking up, but that didn't deter people from coming out. Obviously, not just in the mail-in ballots, obviously, but going into that Tuesday, again, just a few days after Thanksgiving, that did not deter Jersey City residents from coming out to the polls and voting in big numbers for James Solomon. So, I mean, he won very convincingly. It wasn't like, oh, well, he won by a couple points. I mean, it was decisive on a very progressive measure, on a very progressive vision. And again, listen, as you know, I'm an open conservative, but I'm also like, again, I'm an academic. I'm a political scientist. I think about policy. I think about what's tangible and what's realistic, not just at a federal level, state level, but a municipal level. A lot of people are sort of approaching Thursday as like, well, listen, Mr. Solomon has a mandate now. It's not like, oh, it's a 5-4 council. There's going to be some bickering and infighting. No, this is 9-0. This is a complete, I want to say, again, rubber stamp, but this is going to be a complete unified front here when it comes to what his vision is going to be. And obviously when I promoted that you were coming on today, I got a lot of people reach out to me, phone calls, texts, DMs on Instagram, Facebook, whatever, Twitter, saying, oh my God, Fern, you're going to have Ridley on. Good. Okay, cool. I'm glad that she's going to come on. I'm sure you'll have a great conversation, but, what do you think what's going to happen? And I've been consistent, Councilwoman. I've said to people, listen, it's not like this is going to happen overnight. It's not like come, May or June or even July, people are going to be going to council meetings. And sure, there will be those people that will be ruffling feathers and bitching and moaning, and I get that. But realistically, I think to give this new administration ample time, I would argue that by at least the fall or maybe at least Halloween is when I think you would expect a lot of the policy making and a lot of the vision of what James Solomon wants for Jersey City to perhaps start taking effect. To think that, by Valentine's Day, all the shit's going to go right in Jersey City, that's just not realistic.
Correct. I would agree with you. What I've been saying to residents is give the new administration grace. And that's not to alleviate any of their responsibility or any of our responsibility as a council also, but this is a city of 300,000 people. There is a lot to go through. There is a lot to transition, and no one, no matter who is elected, is going to come in with a magic wand and on day one, everything is going to change. And what I would say about the council is, yes, James got his entire slate through, but I don't know if that necessarily means that it is a straight 9-0 vote or not. Everyone that started with us did not finish with us. We are now a mixed bag. And even if it wasn't that way, I think that we have a lot of very independent thinkers on the council. So I am excited and
All right, folks, bear with us here. Councilman Ridley experiencing some technical difficulties. Again, bear with us here. We'll be able to get her back. She isn't an Apple product, so that's good. So I'm happy about that. We'll get the councilwoman back on. Okay. Councilwoman, you back with us?
Here.
Yes, back with us. All right. You hear me? Do you hear me, Councilwoman?
I lost sound for a second.
Do you hear me now? Do you hear me real quick? If not, maybe if you want to, I'm not sure if you, can you hear me, Councilwoman? Can you hear me? No? Maybe just log off, log back on again. Okay. Hopefully we can get it back on. Councilwoman, do you hear me?
Let's see.
Do you hear me, Councilwoman? Hopefully we'll get her back on, folks. Again, don't go anywhere. We're live here on Real Talk with Ward 8 Councilwoman Denise Ridley here on the show. Bear with us, folks. We appreciate you hanging in there. Sometimes technical difficulties happen. Do you hear me? Okay, well, all right. She'll be back on in a moment, folks. Again, don't sweat it. Technical difficulties happen, folks. Again, it's the wonders of technology. So don't go anywhere. If you have a comment or question for the Councilwoman, please. Okay, let's see if we get her back on here. Councilwoman, do you hear me?
Now I can hear you.
Awesome. Good to have you back on here. As I tell people, it's technology. Even with the best of stuff like Apple, I'm an Apple snob. Things can happen. So I appreciate you. And again, folks, we appreciate you hanging in there through just a very brief technical difficulty there. But again, if you're just joining us live, folks, like, comment, and share. Tonight's episode is live. Tonight, here joining me is the distinguished councilperson from Ward A in the south side of Jersey City in the Greenville section. Denise Ridley joins us live here on Real Talk. Folks, drop a comment or a question there in the comment section. We appreciate your feedback here on the leader in independent media, Real Talk via Jersey First TV. Councilwoman, again, as I was mentioning, obviously, I know you were in the middle of the answer, but just for our audience, maybe that just didn't catch the question, as I tell people all the time, again, I call balls and strikes fairly on this show. You got to be a little realistic here about what a new administration is going to do. Obviously, we had 12 years of Steve Fulop, his administration, different policies, different people, different departments. Again, we got to be fair to James here, where he's going to need X amount of months. Like, folks, don't think, Valentine's Day, oh, shit's going to be peachy. No, that's just not realistic, folks. You got to give it some time to marinate organically. And I think, again, with a 9-0 council, some people might argue, Councilwoman, that, you're going to have a very united front here about what the vision for Mr. Solomon will be, and certainly a more unified front on the council, as opposed to like in previous years where there was some bickering.
And as I was saying, I agree with you. You have to give that grace. And I've been asking residents to give that grace to the new administration coming in. It is a large city. It is difficult to transition a city of 300,000 people. And it takes time. It's going to take time for them to go through everything, to set some priorities. Nothing is going to happen overnight. There is no magic wand. And as I mentioned with the council, yes, Mayor-elect Solomon got his whole slate through, but some of the people that we ended with weren't necessarily people we started with, and they come from other teams and they have their own ideas. And in addition to that, just the council in general, whether they were originally Team Solomon or not Team Solomon, I believe are very independent thinkers. So I believe that this is going to be an interesting council full of new life, and I'm excited for us to get to work.
Absolutely. Now, speaking about getting to work, Councilwoman, I mean, we think about Ward A and certainly the Greenville section, a very different part of Jersey City than other parts, obviously with the West Side or downtown or the Heights or the Slope, whatever you want to call it. Listen, a lot of residents reach out to me and say, hey, Fernando, whenever you get a chance to talk to Ridley, try to make sure you hammer home the important points about, for example, not just property taxes, but public safety. Again, not trying to sound like an asshole here, Councilwoman, but certainly, the Greenville section of Jersey City can be a concern for some residents. Obviously, I think many residents still want a police presence there. What can you tell us again, on your presence on the council about what you would like to see in the sense of, obviously, the mayor will be selecting a new public safety director. Again, I don't mind saying this out loud. Good riddance to James Shea. I mean, listen, he can go run a Target for all I care. But I think residents want new blood and new ideas for a public safety director, and obviously public safety in Jersey City. What would you like to see the public safety director do in Jersey City, and certainly in your ward specifically?
I would like to see more collaboration with the community, and definitely more collaboration with the council. We have in the past, the current council has had some very good ideas that weren't accepted. So I think that a good working relationship between the public safety director, the council, and feedback from the community, especially community groups that are on the ground and seeing some of the things firsthand that are going on in these communities, is very important. And I believe that that's missing, in addition to allowing the chiefs of the different departments a little more leeway to govern the day to day of their departments. So I definitely think whoever is next in that seat would definitely need to make sure they're collaborating in an effective way.
Certainly, one of the things that was quite present throughout the campaign, not just in your race, Councilwoman, but obviously throughout the entire race for mayor, was talking about affordability in Jersey City, about property taxes, about, quite honestly, a lot of lifelong Jersey City residents being priced out of Jersey City, and not just the typical neighborhood like, let's say, downtown, but we're talking about everywhere in Jersey City, where even in some cases there was some overdevelopment, even in the South Side, where maybe not, to some residents, maybe not the most attractive place to live in Jersey City, but it's getting development. It is getting a lot of residents coming in. We are seeing brand new housing, in some cases luxury housing, but it still doesn't solve the problem, right? About affordability, and for some cases, some residents feeling like, oh yeah, listen, there's this great new rental building, on Garfield or MLK Drive or Ocean, but we're talking about $2,000 rent, if not more, for a one bedroom, and that might not be plausible for a lot of residents on the South Side. So obviously, I know residents, I'm sure when you were going door to door, were talking about that. But what's realistic in Ward A?
It is ironic that I'm doing a lot of work around affordable housing, and I don't mind the development conversations because that is really the reason that I ran for office in the first place. I know I meet a lot of people and I ask them why they want to run for office, and they say because they want to help people. And that was not my reasoning. Yes, I want to help people, but I felt that I had the ability to intervene in the conversation on development because I saw Ward A as a place that hadn't been touched yet, and I knew it was on its way. We have a lot of residents that are concerned. We set back, if you've lived here all your life, you saw how quickly downtown developed. You watched a lot of people get moved out. You see that development is going on in the Heights and other areas of the city, and it's a real concern for people who have been here for years. So I looked at myself as somebody to insert myself in that conversation and keep a good balance between the community and development. Every new development in Ward A since I've taken office in 2018, we have a community meeting about with the developer in the community. So right now, because affordability has been the key issue throughout the campaign, we have a responsibility to make sure that we find ways to make places more affordable for our residents here. We would not like to push anyone else out, and finding that balance can be difficult, but it is definitely our job to do that. We have to make sure that we are taking care of renters as our property owners, because a lot of times we sometimes focus on the rental aspect of it, and we're not giving any relief to property owners. And we have to focus on both, because the more pressure we put on one side, the other side feels it. So we have to make sure that we're taking care of property owners so that they're not pushing those costs onto our tenants.
Fair enough. Folks, again, if you're just joining us live right now, it is 5:55 here on the East Coast. My guest tonight is the distinguished councilwoman from Ward A in Jersey City. The Honorable Denise Ridley joins us live here on Real Talk. Folks, again, like, comment, and share. It takes 5 seconds and really shows your support for fearless independent media here every week via Real Talk on Jersey First TV. Councilwoman, obviously I don't have to say it, but this Thursday it's going to be a packed house, I'm sure, at the Margaret Williams Theater really on the campus of New Jersey University. A lot of transformation with NJCU in recent years. Like, obviously, we can thank Andres Acebo, the new president there, as well as the administration. It's going to be a capacity crowd, as they say, as a pro wrestling fan, probably standing room only this Thursday, as James Solomon will now take his oath of office to become the new mayor,
Mhm.
succeeding 12 years of Stephen Fulop. Obviously, I know you ran with Mayor Fulop in previous campaigns.
Mhm.
Sort of a mixed reaction. Depends who you ask in Jersey City, and depends what media outlets you ask as well locally about Stephen Fulop. How should we look back on the legacy of Stephen Fulop as the mayor of Jersey City?
I believe that he was very progressive. He was definitely willing to try things that may have seemed a little out of the box, and jump the gun on a few things. And sometimes that worked, sometimes that didn't. I know that there's always things that could be done better. Clearly, there needed to be more attention paid to the southern end of the city, and that part was missing. I think overall, he did a good job. There are a lot of things that advanced while he was in City Hall, and now it's time for us and the new administration to work on some of the areas where we're lacking.
Without a doubt, obviously, Stephen Fulop leaves a lot of mixed reactions, certainly after 12 years in Jersey City. And when we look at what he's going to do moving forward, whether or not he seeks elected office again, who knows?
Mhm.
Certainly, he'll be doing something across the river, as we all know, and leaving behind, obviously, a legacy that still is going to generate a lot of discussion, I'm sure, for years to come. Let me ask you this, Councilwoman, because I know that whether it's this podcast or other forms of media on a local level, we've seen a transformation in the way that Jersey City has been covered for more than a decade. And I'll give you a great example. I mean, obviously, in previous years, inaugurations would take place in July, obviously July 1st, at the start of the new, sort of fiscal year, as they say. That's not the case, obviously, with moving municipal elections to November. We'll be having the swearing in this Thursday indoors, as opposed to how it's been in previous years. And, it takes me back to, the summer of 2013. I remember sitting on Grove Street in July, then Governor Chris Christie, then U.S. Senator Bob Menendez, certainly then U.S. Representative Albio Ceres, Senate President Steve Sweeney, you name it, U.S. Senator Cory Booker. When Steve took office in 2013, I mean, that was very surreal. And I think certainly the way that was covered in the years since then, I think we've seen a transformation in local media. Obviously, we've seen the success of my good friend, the editor in chief of the Hudson County View, John Hines. We've also seen the presence of HUD-Post with the editor in chief there, James De Los Santos, Hudson TV with their management there with Julio Reynoso. We've seen also the rise of tap-intos in Jersey City and Hoboken and Bayonne, as
Mhm.
well as the Jersey City Times with Aaron Murrill. I mean, listen, it's taken a few years, but certainly the coverage of Jersey City has changed dramatically. Has that made your life a little bit easier, a little more difficult, since there's more of a spotlight on elected officials in Jersey City?
I think that having that spotlight and having more news outlets helps with accountability, right? We have chosen a job that is very public. We have chosen to serve at the will of the people, and the people need to know what's going on. So I appreciate the news outlets, whether it is a favorable story on me or not so favorable. That is their job, right? So I believe that there has to be someone there to keep everybody honest and to inform people of what's going on in the city, because there is a lot going on and we have to improve communication with our residents.
And it's certainly, I mean, to a large extent, I mean, we've seen the decline of establishment media, right, Council? I mean,
Mhm.
obviously, for over 100 years, the Jersey Journal was, well, not lately, but towards the end, but for a long time, it was one of the more trusted sources for local news, again, as an
Oh.
establishment media apparatus, as well as the Hudson Reporter, for example. Those are no longer in circulation.
Yeah.
Again, we're seeing the rise of independent media. Case in point, my podcast that's been doing well for some years, talking to everybody in both sides of the aisle, as well as the aforementioned publications I just mentioned. But at the end of the day, as an elected official, when you look at the advancements in media and really the evolution of media, at some point, when does it become bothersome to you
Mhm.
or anyone really?
What bothers me is making sure that we're being factual, because it does sometimes get a little sketchy if everyone has a microphone and not everyone is doing proper research before they're speaking. We live in an age now where information and attention spans are short. So we want to make sure that we are, as residents, taking my council hat off, but as a resident and a citizen of this country, that we're paying attention to news outlets and media and podcasts from people who are really doing their research and not just throwing things at the wall and seeing what will stick in order to gain an audience.
And that's always the challenge, right? When it comes to getting information out there. Again, I mean, it's very different. I mean, I'm not a news site. I mean, I opine on the news clearly and talk to electeds and candidates and things of that nature. But I think at the end of the day, seeing this evolution, Councilwoman, is a good thing. I think, for lack of a better word, I mean, again, people might say, well, Fernando's a little biased. He didn't like the Jersey Journal, whatever. But I think that when you see the death of establishment media, I almost sort of take it back to where it's almost self-inflicted. I think residents started losing faith in those establishment type of institutions, and that's why you've seen the rise of the Hudson County View, the Jersey City Times, the Tap Intos, the Patches, right, and even podcasts like mine where we're talking about what's going on. And I think residents either make a decision to either tune in and read or not. And I think for electeds, especially in a city as diverse as Jersey City, what do you hear when you talk to council members about the way that they consume their news as well when it comes to us?
The world has changed. And as you know, we have our phones in our hands all the time. So, yes, I believe that people have faith in a lot of the newer sources, but also I think the world has just changed, especially after lockdown and COVID. People who maybe were not using technology as much have started doing that. We're in a different space. And I believe that that has contributed a lot to some of the newspapers going out of business. This is a brand new world, and we have to adjust to where people are.
Having said that, during this election cycle, Councilwoman, one of the things that, again, maybe listen, the mandate's there. Obviously, it was a decisive win during the runoff, but there's still sort of those taboo words that exist, right, about progressive or whether or not it's too woke. And as you know, obviously, as a conservative, I'm one of those people that's overly concerned about progressive policies or wokeness. And again, I was always very, very, I guess, consistent in my belief system. Like, I don't care about pronouns. I care about property tax. I care about public safety. I care about affordability. I mean, the woke bullshit to me isn't important, but I get it. There's a certain segment of Jersey City that cares about that stuff. But when we think about the way we look at progressive politics now, clearly James Solomon's win, certainly along with what happened in Hoboken, even across the river in Manhattan. I mean, obviously, is to some extent. I mean, listen, you have some Democratic socialists on the council. Now, whether or not they're going to legislate well, we'll see. But the point is that the term progressive really invokes a lot of reactions. And I know that you don't strike me as this person that's like, you don't strike me as a person that failed an economics course or that failed a civics course, right? And when I think of Democratic socialists, or I think about far left progressives or the woke crowd, I think about those type of people. But you've never struck me as that. Has that been your bread and butter in Ward A and the way you've been able to reach out to your constituents and keep that, I'm going to call it a fan base, but keep that constituency to keep reelecting you?
I don't subscribe to any particular label. I don't call myself a progressive or anything else. I believe that for my ward in particular, we are looking for people who will fight and who will make sure that we are making policies that fit their needs. And for me, that's nonpartisan. That doesn't fall into any particular label. A pothole is a pothole. Everyone needs affordable housing. Everyone wants to make sure that their street is clean and needs to know when the sweeper is coming. And I think because we are a city that is or has a nonpartisan election, that those issues we can somewhat focus on and leave some of those labels out of it. I am still learning a lot about some of the different organizations and labels that we have with new members coming to the council. And I'm open to that. I'm open to learning what their ideas are. I believe that we all have to work together. Everybody's idea is important, everybody's values are important, and we just have to make sure that we are doing sensible legislation and we're moving the city forward in the right direction for the majority of the people.
Well said. Exactly. It's what you got reelected to, right? I mean, that's
Mhm.
the bottom line. Speaking about elections, obviously, you're not just only the councilwoman in Ward A, maybe soon to be council president, right? We'll see. I mean, I don't want to, jinx anything and put the cart before the horse, as they say. But you're also a committee person within the
Correct.
Hudson County Democrat Party,
Mhm.
and certainly with the election of former county commissioner Jerry Walker to the state legislature, into the state assembly specifically. Now, whether or not he's going to be the next state senator in 2027, stay tuned, folks. I mean, that could be an interesting race to watch out for sure. But certainly, there are county commissioner seats that are going to be filled on a special appointment basis. And, committee people are going to have a say for that. It seems like there's a lot of fickle business going around, Councilwoman, about who should get that seat. What are the qualifications? Is it just a placeholder because come June, there's going to be a primary, and whether or not the person that's going to be in that special appointment, we're not sure if that person's going to be going into the primary, whether or not for the Democrat Party.
Mhm.
What are you hearing about favorites, and what's going to be the end all be all about the next county commissioner in that seat? That again, Jerry Walker obviously vacates it. That really, I think today, right? I mean, tomorrow, I think is the start of a new term.
Right.
What are you hearing about what is going to be the best fit to replace Jerry Walker in that seat for county commissioner?
Yeah, I was actually with Commissioner Walker today. It's his last day, so it's bittersweet. We wish him the best of luck going to Trenton, but there are a lot of people that are interested, and just coming off of another election, there are people who still have that energy to take on another race. I believe that whoever that person is definitely has to do their job and has a hard race to fight because it is a committee person vote. But that at the same time is what makes me excited because a lot of people do not know what a committee person is. A lot of people do not understand the importance of committee people, and it is a position that is voted on but not really considered by a lot of people. So I think that having this vote highlights that committee and hopefully will gain more interest because we need committee people who are active, committee people who are willing to really take part in the process. And there hasn't been a committee vote like this in a while, maybe since the vote for the chair when Amy DeGise became the chair. So this is a time that really highlights that position. And I would love for more people to become interested in being committee people and being active committee people, because while it might seem like a position that doesn't take much or that doesn't do much, when it's time to go, it's time to go. And you have to be there and be invested and being part of that process. So our committee people are super important.
Speaking about being part of the process, I remember that hot summer afternoon in June in 2018 when committee people had to reconvene in Kearney High School, for God's sakes, to
Yeah,
elect
I
a new
was
county
there.
chair. Holy shit. I mean, it was sweltering in there. I was
Yeah,
like, wait a minute. Are we in China assembling iPhones? Like, what's going on here? Like, it
it
was
was a
hot.
lot.
It was muggy there. But certainly, and I appreciate you breaking that down for us in the sense of what process goes into this now. And it also kind of begs the question because obviously with the election of James Solomon, Councilwoman, certainly, the Democrat Party in Hudson County, I think, is almost at a crossroads, right? We're seeing establishment Democrats, not necessarily at odds, but, some would argue maybe a collision course is coming with the progressive wing of the party. And there seems to be, again, maybe, obviously we all learned about it. There was sort of a gentleman's agreement or gentleman's meeting between the mayor-elect, James Solomon, and certainly the county executive, who also happens to be the chair of the Democrat Party in Hudson County, Craig
Mhm.
Guy, and obviously the biggest power broker in Hudson County, if not maybe the state. That's my mayor and state senator, Brian Stack, where it seems like, at least from what I heard, testimonials where the three of them sat down, gentleman's agreement, we're going to stay in our lanes. I'm not going to F with you. Don't F with me. Let's try to build a bigger coalition for the Democrat Party in Hudson County. That's what I heard. For you as a committee person, I think it's fair to say that that sort of harmony is going to be necessary, because right from the get, if you start seeing some fickleness and some tension, that's probably not. Now, again, as a conservative and as a Republican, I mean, listen, I mean, I'm not going to cry tears about it, but as a journalist covering this, I think it's fair to say that this is something to watch out for in the sense of where the Democrat Party is moving in Hudson County. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I believe that there comes a time where you have to put your egos aside. And I know it's politics and everybody is fighting for the power and moving on to the next thing. But we are just starting out with a new administration in Jersey City. We are just starting out with a new administration at the state level. And where we can compromise and work together, we should be doing that. So it is refreshing to hear that some of our leaders here in Hudson County are starting off on that foot. And I think that that's the right way to start. And hopefully we can stay on that vein as long as possible.
Certainly, the mayor-elect, soon-to-be mayor in just a couple of days, is going to have his say about some of these county commissioner seats. And again, with no county line, Councilwoman, primaries really now take on a very different life onto itself. Not just for legislative seats, as we saw last year in Hudson County in the 31st, 32nd, and 33rd legislative districts, but we're going to see that now in the upcoming county commissioner races, where, for decades, if you had the county line and you had the county support, it was almost a sure-in to win that seat. That's not going to be the case. People are going to have to spend some money. People are going to have to spend some minutes knocking on doors, having social media engagement, having debates, where in years past that was no longer even a reality. That changed dramatically with the abolition of the line. Do you foresee, again, as a committee person, that you're going to have to be, as they say, wine and dined for a vote when it comes to some of these county commissioner seats?
Yeah, you have to, everyone's going to have to do the work. Everyone has to get out there. You have to talk to the residents. You need to talk to committee people. You have to work for it. That's where we are. And that's not to say that in the past people haven't worked for it, because yes, I believe there are a lot of people who have campaigned very hard for their seats, and they deserve them. But this is, as you mentioned, a very different time. And some of the support that might have been there in the past is not necessarily there. So that door knocking and getting in front of residents is important. I believe, I'm old school, I believe you ask people for their vote. So you need to walk the boards, you need to knock on doors, you need to show up at events. And that's the way you campaign, because you want people to know what your platform is and that you're genuine and that you don't mind being among them.
Appreciate that, and appreciate that clarity for sure. Folks, if you're just joining us live right now, it's a little after 6:15 here on the East Coast. My guest tonight is a distinguished councilwoman from Ward A on the south side of Jersey City, the Honorable Denise Ridley, joining us live here. Is about to wrap up shortly here with the councilwoman as she awaits. Obviously, she'll be sworn in once again to her seat coming up this Thursday at NJCU, along with our council members and, of course, with the mayor-elect, James Solomon, coming up this Thursday a little after 6 p.m. Eastern time at New Jersey City University. So we've talked to Denise Ridley, the council person. We've talked to Denise Ridley, the committee person. We've talked to Denise Ridley, the to some extent, really the political observer, right? Obviously in Jersey City. But let's get to know Denise Ridley, the woman, right? So let's a quick lightning round here, kind of close us out here tonight, folks. Quick lightning round. Throw some categories at you, Councilwoman, and let's see where you stand on some important things, right? Like aside from politics, right? So let's talk about some important stuff like sports. So baseball fan, if you are, Mets or Yankees?
Yankees.
Okay. Favorite Yankee of all time?
Now, I'm not a huge baseball fan. I just like the Yankees. So that's a tough one for me.
Big Yankee fan as well. So I'm with you on this. Favorite NFL team?
Cowboys.
Okay, you see my social, so you know who you're talking to, right? I mean, We're talking
No,
about
I did not realize you're a Cowboys fan also.
religious. Religious. I go to the Cowboy Giant game every year. I froze my ass last Sunday with my cousin on his birthday. And I know, listen, I know Giant fans get all giddy. It was the first time they
Yeah.
beat us since Obama was president. I get it. Relax. All right, calm down. Cowboys
That
game.
is our Super Bowl,
Yeah,
the
but you know
Cowboy
what?
Giants game.
But what's really interesting though, Councilwoman, in fairness, as a Cowboy fan here, I mean, it almost feels like a home game for us because so many Cowboy fans go to MetLife for the
Yeah.
Cowboy Giant game, and even during the season, coincidentally, because of the sort of like alternating schedules, coincidentally, the Cowboys played the Jets this year, and I took my dad, who's a big Jet fan, and my dad sat there with my uncle and my cousin, and my dad goes, "This is ridiculous. Why are there so many Cowboy fans here?" Like there was a sea of navy blue at MetLife. And I'm like, it's almost like a home game for us. So I'm a big Cowboy fan. My favorite Cowboy is Captain America, Roger Staubach. How about yours, Councilwoman?
My favorite Cowboy. Let's see. Deion Sanders.
Okay, fair enough. I have a primetime jersey, so definitely. Listen, not the best of seasons for us. I mean, I think that not a fan of the coaching staff. Obviously, I'm glad to see the defensive coordinator. I mean, this bum couldn't catch a cold, much less anything else, on defense. But I did like some things I saw on offense. I did like to see the Packers lose, which kind of improved our stock, our draft status, obviously, with the picks we got from the Micah Parsons trade. If you were advising Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones tomorrow, what would you tell them about what needs to improve for 2026?
We definitely have to look at the coaching staff, right? And that's with any team. We have to make sure that it is aligned with a win. And nobody's perfect. I think they've done a good job over the years, but you have to make sure that everybody is staying top tier. We think we have a good team, and that staff will be able to make the correct decisions and decide what we need and what we don't need on the field, where we're lacking, and where we need to look at new players to fill in.
Catherine, what was your epiphany about becoming a Cowboys fan? Like, what contributed to that?
A lot of people ask me that, and I don't know exactly what it was, but I've just always been a Cowboys fan. I was never a Giants or a Jets fan. Cowboys just always did it for me. I don't know. I think they look good as a unit. They have you have your pillow. Great
Yeah,
stadium, great cheerleaders, great team. If you look at our players through the years, they've been great NFL legends, and I
sure.
just love the team.
And you know what's funny? I mean, I'm not sure if you've been to the new stadium. It's beautiful over there in Arlington. It's
Yes.
wonderful. And you know what's really funny? This is what I always like to shut up people when it comes to arguments. And this may be one, maybe I'm not sure if you ever have to have these debates, but I always say this, Councilwoman. I say, listen, if we do a breakdown of the top 5 of every position, whether it's
Mhm.
quarterback, running back, receiver, tight end, kicker, lineman, linebacker, corner, whatever you want to call it, I'll die on this hill because I'm right on this.
Mhm.
There's always a Cowboy in every category. That's fact.
That's
Okay.
right.
I know Giant fans and Eagle fans and Redskins fans get all fickle. Regardless of the position, there's always a Cowboy, maybe sometimes more than one in each position.
I
So,
agree.
so people want to talk their shit on America's team. I get it's been 30 years and Bill Clinton was president. I get all that, but I'm confident. I'm optimistic. We'll see another championship, I hope, in our lifetime.
That's right. Cowboys all the way.
Absolutely. NBA.
NBA. I'm a Lakers fan.
Holy shit, as am I. Big Laker fan. No,
See, we have a lot in
there
common.
you go. There you
We can
go.
find common ground
There you go.
across lines. See?
There you go. Listen, I was ecstatic when they got Luka because it kind of signaled for me like they're going to start transitioning away from James. And obviously the rest of that young core. Again, I'm not sure if you had a chance to really watch a lot of games this season. I try to stay up late when they're on Peacock or ESPN or whatever. I got to tell you, they're lacking some size. They just can't depend on Luka and Reeves. I mean, they need another big man. I think they need another piece there, especially as James is really transitioning into retirement soon. He's not what he was, and I get it. But, if they want to go far in a stacked Western Conference, Councilwoman, I think they need to pull off another trade. Not sure what pieces they have, but it just can't be Luka. He's great. He's young. He's 25, but the Lakers need more.
Agreed.
Yeah, definitely. Hockey fan at all?
No, but I'm gonna go with the Devils.
All right, same here. Big Devil fan as well. Not sure if you're into comic book movies, but I grew up obviously reading comics. DC or Marvel movies?
Ooh, Marvel.
Okay, and having said that, favorite Marvel character?
Oh, that's a tough one. You know what? I don't necessarily have a favorite Marvel character because I'm not a huge comic fan.
Okay,
I'm just more familiar with the Marvel brand
okay.
rather than DC.
So, are you looking forward to obviously Avengers later this year? I know
Well,
it.
definitely,
Yeah.
definitely that. And I hear it's supposed to be super long.
Well, I mean, listen, I'm a nerd about these things, so I keep up on it. Apparently, we'll see the real first ad during the Super Bowl. So
Okay.
buckle up for that. Doctor Doom going to be the lead villain. Obviously, Robert Downey Jr. exploring a new role.
Hmm.
If you've watched the other movies, Councilman, obviously there's different universes. So if we're inserting people from a different time and whatever, obviously we saw that with the Spider-Man movies. There's
Hmm.
different Spider-Mans. It's very,
Right.
very likely we're going to see different
I
Captain
learned
America.
that
Yeah.
recently, actually, because my little one was watching Spider-Man. So now I know there are multiple. We have little Spidey, and there's a lot of things
Yeah.
going on with Spider-Man now that wasn't going on back in my day, or at least I wasn't aware of it.
Now it's my understanding. Again, it's going to be 3 hours and 45 minutes coming up this year
Yeah, it's a part-time job.
for Doomsday. Now, again, it's a family show. I don't want to be rude to anybody, but folks, again, especially for the guys in the audience, you're going to have to kind of go on Groupon and buy one of those little like travel urination things to just pee in your seat because I'm not getting up from my seat. So I don't know what to tell you. I think people got to either, this should be an intermission in the theater. I mean, my
Yeah,
God, if a movie's that long, especially with the end credits and then
that's
the
long.
other scenes, I mean, this could be like a 4 hour pay per view, like watching WWE or something. Councilman, it's
Right,
crazy.
right.
Not to put you on the spot here, but favorite cuisine and restaurant in Warday?
Ooh, favorite cuisine and restaurant in Bordeaux. We have a lot of good restaurants. I'll give a few. So for a classic, gotta go with Laco's, of course. You know, the food there, everyone knows is great. We have a lot of new restaurants popping up in Bergen Lafayette section. And one of the favorites everyone knows, Caribbean cuisine, Harry's Daughter. What else is happening in Ward A? Pizza spots. I think everyone knows my favorite pizza, Stadium Pizza. I think we just have a lot of options and they're all pretty great. If you want food, come to Ward A.
Absolutely. Favorite American president and why?
Favorite American president? I have to go with Obama. Gotta
Okay.
go with Obama. You know, he changed the game, right? I think that regardless of how you feel about his presidency, he became a symbol for hope for a lot of people, a symbol for change, and really show that as a country we can get along and we can agree, right? And I think that is something that we are not doing as much right now, with no blame to anyone in particular, but I believe at that time we were really working towards a more unified front as a country.
Fair enough. My favorite president's Teddy Roosevelt, my favorite Republican.
Yes.
So
Mhm.
great American president. I don't think he gets enough flowers, in my opinion. For us history students and history buffs, I think if you read into Teddy Roosevelt, I think you'll know why. So,
Mhm.
but Councilwoman, again, it's been a great conversation. You see, you survived talking to a conservative. Oh my God, right? Like, holy shit! Like,
I wasn't nervous,
you know what I'm
regardless
saying? Like,
of your views and whether we
yeah.
disagree on certain things. You have always been a gentleman with interviewing, so you are a wonderful interviewer, and you stand by your opinions, and
Yeah.
as you should.
And listen, again, you don't need a tetanus shot right now. You don't need to take a shower. You're okay. You survived. So let that be hopefully a lesson to others in Hudson County that listen. Come on this show. We have conversations. If I don't
Right.
agree with you, if you don't agree with me, let's have a conversation about it. Obviously, we can do that. But again, Councilwoman, you've been a treat to talk to. Once again, congratulations on your reelection. Certainly, congratulations coming up on Thursday. I'm
Thank
sure I'll run into you at NJCU as you get sworn in along with your council members, along with James Solomon. Listen, again, I can call balls and strikes fairly here. I want him to succeed. I don't want Jersey City going down a bad rabbit hole. I want to see Jersey residents thriving. I'm always concerned about, and I've been upfront about this. I'm concerned about overdevelopment. I'm concerned about affordability. When I'm driving to Journal Square, it feels like I'm driving through Gotham City and Wayne Tower. Like, that concerns me. That concerns me for residents that maybe you're getting priced out. But again, let's see what the new administration brings. Let's see what not just the mayor, the soon-to-be mayor, but obviously all 9 members of the council. You gotta get to work. You gotta roll up your sleeves. You already got that. You already have that experience and advantage already because you've rolled up your sleeves. So best of luck to you in the new term, Councilwoman. I appreciate you coming on here and really in your belief in my brand of independent media. I thank you for that. I'll give you the last word here tonight on Real Talk.
Well, first, thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the invitation, and I've enjoyed our conversation. The one thing that I want residents to know, a lot of what was discussed during the election was communication and residents just being aware of things. So I just would like everyone to know that we are working on a Ward A app so that we can push more information to residents in a efficient manner. As I said earlier, we all have our phones in our hands, so anything that we can do to improve communication, we're trying to work on that and step into where everyone is right now in 2026. So thank you.
Councilman, listen, I'll check back in with you later on this spring, maybe early summer, see how the new administration is going, and we'll check back with you. I appreciate you making, dedicating some time to me tonight. And again, congratulations on your reelection. Best of luck to you, and we'll see you Thursday, and we'll see you again on Real Talk via Jersey First TV. Take care, Councilwoman.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Take care. Have a good one. Folks, again, good stuff there with the Councilwoman there in Ward A in Jersey City. And certainly, folks, again, if you just joined us live right now, it's 6:25 here on the East Coast. And if you missed any part of the broadcast, folks, whether it's on Facebook or on Instagram or YouTube or Twitter, it takes a few seconds. Just like, comment, and share tonight's episode here on the Jersey First Television Network as we are kicking it off here in 2026 with great interviews, great conversations, as I mentioned, certainly to start off the year about the topics that really matter to everybody, okay? In 2026, certainly another elections season here in New Jersey. Folks, it's never a break here in New Jersey, obviously, whether it's presidential elections, gubernatorial elections, legislative elections, municipal elections. Folks, there's an election every year in New Jersey. So there's never a shortage of things to talk about here on Real Talk via Jersey First TV. Again, folks, it takes 5 seconds to show your support for fearless independent media here in Hudson County and even throughout New Jersey. It's Real Talk via the Jersey First Television Network. That's right, folks. Again, if you're just tuning in live, we appreciate you tuning in here. And of course, show your support, share the brand here on your social media platforms. And of course, you know what time it is. It's time for Final Thoughts. And folks, yes, it's been a very rambunctious news cycle since last week. Obviously, with the tragic death of anti-ICE protester Renee Good in Minneapolis, just a few blocks from where George Floyd met his end back in the summer of 2020. Now, folks, let me be very clear about something here, because it seems like the message is getting lost in the days since the death of Renee Good. Now, two things can be true at the same time, folks. It's absolutely tragic what happened to Renee with her dog in her car, and obviously with her wife there in the car. And despite the fact of her wife, and we'll go into the footage a little bit later, being an absolute insufferable agitator, and that's not even in dispute, folks. The footage will tell you that. But it's tragic what happened. This is a mom. This is someone who had just dropped off her young child to school. And unfortunately, due to the passing of that child's father, I mean, that child now will be an orphan, obviously, will not have his parents. And that's tragic. And this was completely avoidable, folks. Okay? And certainly this was unfortunate. It was tragic. We don't like to see this. We don't like to see this playing in real time. We don't. And it's very unfortunate. And again, it's just, it's tragic. It is heartbreaking to see this play out in real time. But folks, also at the same time, this was avoidable. This was completely avoidable by not, quite frankly, falling into the indoctrination that's happened by one side of the political aisle that seems to be, has corrupted the message, and quite frankly, seems to be deputizing people to want to obstruct federal law enforcement. And that's a fact, folks. That's not my take. That's not, oh, there's Fernando being a conservative. No, folks, that's an honest take here. Because on this show, we call balls and strikes fairly here. Okay? I can't speak for other Mickey Mouse journalists that do podcasts in Hudson County or in New Jersey. I can't speak for that. Because I'm always working here on this show. But I'll tell you the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. But since the tragic death last week and what we saw play out in real time with footage, not just street footage, but also footage taken by federal law enforcement, there's been no shortage of opinions, folks, in our political echo chamber. And whether you're on the right or the left or the middle, as I said before, two things can be true at the same time. Yes, what happened was tragic, what happened was unfortunate, and what happened was heartbreaking. But folks, it's also avoidable if you simply choose to not engage in behavior that's going to put you in a precarious position. And that's what happened here. Okay? That's what happened. And let's look at the footage that's out there. And it's interesting because we have yet to see the footage from the iPhone from Renee Goods' spouse. With all the shit she was talking, don't take my word for it, folks. You can see it for yourself. Again, folks, you have to feel for that dog. Like, poor dog there. I mean, no need to do that. Okay? And let's be very clear about what happened, folks, to the events that preceded this. You're driving on your block or in your neighborhood, and you specifically choose, it's not like, oh, there was ice and the car swerved out of control. No, folks. There was an explicit intent to take your vehicle and drive it into the middle of the street to obstruct federal law enforcement because, and folks, this is not bullshit on my part, because you're part of an anti-ICE watch group in Minneapolis. You and your spouse, Renee, took it upon yourselves to be a part of an anti-ICE watch group and A, attempt to obstruct federal law enforcement, and B, become professional agitators. Folks, that's a fact. That's not me lacking empathy or humanity. No, folks, that's not the case. That's fact. Let's continue. Let's keep watching.
That's fine, dude. I'm not mad at you. Show your face. I'm not mad at you. That's okay. We don't change our plates every morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen, former fucking veteran. You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the car.
Again, folks, like, who thinks it's a good idea to agitate and provoke a confrontation with law enforcement? Folks, I'm Hispanic. I'm brown. You know what? You know what my parents taught me at a very young age? When you get pulled over by a cop or any sort of law enforcement, roll down all your windows, put your hands on your steering wheel, and keep them there. Okay, folks, nothing. Remember when our parents tell us, let's say when we go out to the city and we go clubbing or experience nightlife, nothing good happens after 2 a.m., right? Okay, folks, nothing good happens when all of a sudden you want to feel a little ballsy and you feel like challenging law enforcement. But folks, here's the thing though. You know what's created this climate? It's not conservatives, not people like me, but the American left and people that I talk about on this show repeatedly. The woke fools, the social justice clowns, okay? The climate hysterics, the alphabet mob, you name it. These are the people who think that somehow they've become deputized by an ideology and an indoctrination that, you know what, you should be confrontational with law enforcement. That's what we've seen. Folks, never mind the fact that perhaps the most toxic type of individual in today's political climate, literally, folks, is the liberal white woman. Again, that's not racist, that's fact. Name me a more toxic person or demographic in our political climate right now, folks, than the toxic white woman. Don't believe me? Again, see it for yourself again.
Get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Again, folks. Don't take my word for it. Again, listen, if you want to come at me with your bullshit about, oh, Fernando lacks empathy, Fernando lacks, humanity, bullshit. That's not true. When I'm calling it balls and strikes fairly on this show, folks, which others within establishment media are incapable of doing, whether it's at the national level, state level, or local level. Okay? This was avoidable. By all means.
Get out of the fucking car. Get out of the car.
Like, who thinks it's a good idea to step on the accelerator and attempt to obstruct federal law enforcement? And folks, it's not like, oh, this never happens, Fernando. No, folks, the toxicity of the liberal white woman is real. Don't believe me? Folks, a simple Google search will tell you. Don't take my word for it. Let's go to some examples.
Sidewalk! Move back! Move back! Stay there! Step back! Move back!
I mean, folks, again, like, who thinks it's a good idea to be confrontational with law enforcement of any kind? Who thinks that's a good idea? We've seen no shortage of people, the people behind me especially, that have been very adamant about this. But you know what's even most interesting about this entire ordeal, folks, about Renee Good? Mysteriously, miraculously, the American left and a lot of national Democrats and progressives suddenly, wait for it, suddenly they care about white women. Did they care about the Ukrainian immigrant in Charlotte riding a light rail and getting killed by a repeat black offender in Charlotte that a liberal judge let out repeatedly? Or Laken Riley, who would have turned 24 yesterday, who was killed, who's raped and killed by an illegal immigrant? Or a white woman that was set on fire on a New York City subway by an illegal immigrant? Okay. Suddenly now what, the left and progressives care about white women? Really? Bullshit. You're not going to fool me with your selective moral outrage, folks. And the sanctimony's been really rich, folks. But you know what? As I was looking at preparation for the show, I found, and mind you, while it's not necessarily satire, it perfectly encapsulates the hypocrisy of the American left. Right? Don't take my word for it. Folks, sometimes we laugh at things because they're funny, but sometimes we laugh at them because they're true. Don't believe me? Check this out.
Now you shooting a poor woman in Minneapolis. What's wrong with you people?
Oh, so now you guys care about white women, not the white women that were sexually assaulted and killed by illegals, not the white woman that was stabbed in a train, not the white woman that was burned to death by an illegal in New York. Now all of a sudden you guys are crying and enraged and super sad?
You should be ashamed of yourself. ICE agent, she deserves justice. This isn't right.
If she would have succeeded in running me over and killing me, y'all would celebrate my death and start a GoFundMe to get her out of jail.
We don't celebrate anyone's death, and we don't excuse violent crime. Accountability applies to everyone, regardless of politics.
Oh, yeah? Well, folks, you know what's interesting? A couple of days later, after the death of Charlie Kirk in September, during an award show, not a peep from liberal Hollywood or, liberal institutions. But sure enough, last night during the Emmy Awards, in the most insufferable collection of beta males and soy boys and Karens and cat ladies and men who just reek of estrogen. No, there was no shortage of trying to create empathy for Renee Good. Do you see the hypocrisy here, folks? And before you jump at me and jump down my throat and say, oh, well, there goes Fernando with his whataboutisms. No, folks, it's not about a whataboutism. It's about calling balls and strikes and being consistent. You're going to be outraged or you're not. And while this cartoon is kind of, satirical, folks, it hits it out of the ballpark. Let's continue.
Anyways, the victim, she was a mother and had kids.
Really? That argument didn't seem to matter when people were cheering violence toward Charlie Kirk. Maybe empathy shouldn't depend on politics?
Also, why was a single mother out in the middle of the afternoon looking for conflict? Where was the instinct to protect her child? Where was the responsibility to be home, working, raising her kids, building stability instead of chasing drama?
Maybe.
Bingo. Can someone answer that question for me? Now, folks, I don't have any kids that I know of. But if I was a parent, the last thing I would want to do, knowing that I have to take care of a child, knowing that I have to go pick up my child later from school, no, instead, I'm going to be one of those comemieras that's going to be part of an anti-ICE watch group, right? Stalking federal agents. And by the way, just to let you know that in just the last couple of weeks alone, ICE has apprehended over 100 dangerous criminal illegals. Not like someone shoplifting, folks. We're talking about serious criminals. You think the American left or the establishment media are talking about that? Of course not. That will require them, wait for it, to have what's called integrity. We all know they don't have any. So, again, two things can be right at the same time. What happened was tragic. What happened was unfortunate. What happened was heartbreaking, but was also avoidable. When you decide to go and try to provoke confrontation with law enforcement, folks, that's not going to end well for anybody. And that was clearly the case here. Let's continue.
Her kids was at that Somali Leering Center.
But it doesn't open till 2 p.m. Listen, being a victim does not erase bad decisions, and tragedy does not turn recklessness into virtue. That should be a huge takeaway.
Yeah.
Folks, that right there says it all. And what I'm shocked about, and plenty of people behind me on this collage, as I just said right now, plenty of people right now in this collage are super guilty of it. Take your pick. There's no shortage of clowns here behind me. And I say this all the time. Okay, well, let's continue.
If you're a parent, your job is to reduce risk, not run towards it. The fact is, every adult in America knows it is illegal to impede traffic and law enforcement. And Renee Good was an adult who had the ability to reason and follow instructions.
ICE are not real cops.
Oh, yeah. But when I say a trans woman isn't a real woman, it's a problem.
Now, again, folks, while that's satirical and everything, folks, every point in there is on the money. I know many progressives and locals aren't going to agree with it, but folks, the truth is there. And sometimes we laugh at things because they're funny, but oftentimes we laugh at things because they're true. And in this case, everything there is just absolutely true. But what was interesting, obviously, over the weekend, we saw no shortage of protests. And folks, how these things are getting funded so quickly is very interesting. And leave it to garbage journalists like Max Pizarro, who, folks, by the way, felicidades, Maxi, that somehow this early in 2026, you're already working. That somehow, este huevón, que no sirve para nada, he's like David Cruz, dude, effing useless, right? Somehow left his house to do some work. I guess maybe Mike and Ryan Graham from Insider NJ were like, listen, Max, you can't be sitting home scratching your ass playing with your dick all these months. You have to actually get out of your house and do some work, right? And to his credit, I mean, he left his house and he went to a nearby protest in Somerville, which is really interesting, folks, because, oh my God, if there's ever, folks, if there's ever a charisma vacuum in New Jersey media, I mean, folks, you gotta kind of make the case that Max Pizarro is right up there with a lot of others. But Maxie left his house and I believe went to Somerville to cover an anti-ICE protest, or people protesting for Renee Good and everything else. Let's take you to that segment with Guy Citron, I believe a legislative candidate in 2025. Yikes. I imagine these two looking at each other. Okay, but let's take you to that. And folks, watch this. That guy's only 4 minutes long, folks. It might put you to sleep. So if you need like a cure for insomnia, watch this though.
You down here today, guy?
Max, I'm terrified.
Folks, if there's ever a portrait of a soy boy or a beta male, folks, you have it right here. Okay. And again, not that Fernando's the greatest name in the world, but 9 months to come up with a name, and the best that parents can do is Guy. That's just lazy, bro. That's lazy booking. That's lazy writing, if you know what that means. Okay. Let's continue here as Max decides to interview this clown, and look, his desperation and his despair that he's feeling. Oh my God. Oh my goodness. Someone get Guy a pacifier, un tete, porque tú sabes, you know. Let's go.
Max, I'm terrified because
I can't formulate more than 2 coherent sentences. I mean, I don't know what to tell you, but let's go on.
if the shooter faces no consequences for murdering a civilian, an American citizen in the street, that sends a signal to the tens of thousands of other ICE agents that they are allowed to do it too.
Like, are you high? Are you on a substance? Bro, this guy, like, I'm watching this guy talk. I'm like, this guy's like 2 steps short of a retard. I mean, how did you even think about running for office? But folks, this is the thing. What's interesting is, again, the weaponization or thinking that somehow provoking confrontations with federal law enforcement or law enforcement in general is something that we should welcome or support. Folks, I'll say it again. Part of the reason Donald Trump got reelected in 2024 was because of a mandate of a wide open border that was completely neglected by the Biden administration. Okay? But somehow beta males and soy boys like Guy want to tell you something different. No, folks, that's not the truth. Okay? You ever wonder why in sanctuary states you see all this chaos? You don't really see it in the red states. Because again, folks, what sanctuary state policies do is they enable criminality. They enable lawlessness. But that's way too much. Those words are way too big for someone like Guy and for Max Pizarro. Because for years, Max Pizarro, while sitting at home, again, scratching his ass, playing with his dick, never once talked about the toxicity and the dangers of sanctuary state policies or sanctuary city policies. No, Max is too busy being at home, earning over $100,000 a year to scratch his ass. While real journalists like yours truly are talking about these issues that affect everyday New Jerseyans. But let's continue with this bullshit sob story here from Guy.
This is why due process and proper law enforcement, which is what real police officers are trained to do, is so important. Investigating a crime, getting a warrant, and safely taking a criminal off the street.
That's what ICE has been doing, Guy. That's what they've been doing. And they have removed thousands of criminal illegals, in many cases, dangerous ones. And I get it that you don't mind illegals being in your backyard, but some of us do, Guy. And some of us do, Max. I know since you never leave your house, you don't see that. But for the rest of us that have real jobs and work and go out, yeah, folks, sanctuary state policies make us really more, put us in danger. But don't tell that to soy boys like this guy or Max Pizarro, because they'd rather virtue signal instead. But let's continue.
Is proper police operation. What we are watching is domestic terrorism. This is the militarization of the police, of a private military force, essentially.
Really? A private? Again, folks, it's hard to take these people seriously when they can't even get their facts straight. I expect this level of retardation from Max Pizarro. I mean, but for a guy that supposedly was running for a state legislative seat, you'd think you'd be a little smarter than that. Folks, ICE is Immigration and Customs Enforcement, the agency that was consolidated under the creation of the Department of Homeland Security, which was created in 2003 after the passage of the Patriot Act. I mean, I don't know what guy was doing. I don't know if he's smoking weed or doing a bump of coke. I don't know what he was doing. But for those of us that just have basic reading comprehension, know that that's the case. There's no private force whatsoever. It's taxpayer-funded federal law enforcement to get rid of very dangerous illegals, which, again, if you have a wide open border for 4 years, there'd be no need for it. Or at least not the amount of ICE presence we're seeing, especially in sanctuary states and cities. But again, it's perfect for these two retards to sort of bounce ideas back to each other because that's all they're good for. Let's continue.
As like you would imagine or expect to see in a third world country where democracy has already collapsed.
And how has it collapsed, Guy? The same thing to Max, because, again, Max keeps invoking the same bullshit that he's been good at, right? Oh my God, we're approaching totalitarianism. We're approaching fascism. No, Max, none of that's happening. Okay? Elections have consequences. People vote in elections, right? Just like they voted here last year in New Jersey, right? And we'll see what happens to affordability, something you never wrote about because you were more concerned about the erection you have about Donald Trump, right? But there's no fear of democracy eroding. There's no collapse of our constitutional republic. I get it. Retards like Max Pizarro and this idiot probably will make you think that, but that's not the case, folks. There's something called facts and there's something called feelings. Facts matter. Let's continue.
So, Max, I ask you and I ask all of your beautiful listeners and
all 50 of them, because nobody watches Max. I mean, listen, I'm doing Max a favor here by just giving him a little more traffic for his podcast or segments that really doesn't get any traffic. But let's continue.
Readers, where do you draw the line? What more does Donald Trump and this administration need to do to convince you that they are here to take over the country from the inside out?
ICE, Guy, is not allowing other entities, other organizations to participate.
Bro, what's wrong with this guy? He looks like he's hooked on freaking heroin. I mean, like, do you need a fix, or does someone need to get him some, I don't know, masking agent? Like, this guy looks like he's hurting here. Is he like going through withdrawal? Like, what? Like, Jesus, Max, you couldn't get someone that doesn't resemble a crackhead going through withdrawal? But let's continue here.
Paid in the quote-unquote investigation of this case. What, in your judgment, is justice in this case?
Judgment in this case would be arresting the shooter, taking them to court, and discovering their innocence or guilt in front of the public, as like our judicial system is meant to be. I want due process for the shooter, the same way that I want due process for anyone else who breaks a law in this country. I believe...
No, you don't, because you're more than happy with seeing criminality play out in real time. So stop the bullshit. You too, Max, because you're really good at it.
In law and order.
My friend, as a participant in this vigil tonight, what do you see here and what are you experiencing here?
Well, I can tell you, folks, from looking at the vigil and watching it, folks, you can smell the cat piss right through the video. You can hear the estrogen in the voice of all the soy boys and beta males. Exhibit A, clearly. And all the fake manufactured outrage. And isn't it interesting how quickly people mobilize all these signs? Wow, I mean, Staples and Office Depot, man, their print shops must have been making stupid money this weekend, right? Or unless it's, the usual paid protesters that we've been seeing from George Soros and the like that make these signs so readily available. But let's continue.
Max, I was in sub-freezing weather in Roxbury last weekend before this shooting to demonstrate against a potential ICE facility coming to a town that's 20 minutes down the street from where I live and where I send my son to school. What's resonating for me right now?
Resonating for you right now, I think you need a fix. Like, can someone get him a bump of cocaine or like just score some smack somewhere, please? Because this guy looks like he's going through serious withdrawal.
Is the fact that when I was out in those conditions protesting something that I already thought was wrong, that was before this happened. Call it what you want. Acceleration, escalation. This is society unraveling, and it is touching our backyards. So I ask again to your beautiful readers and your listeners, where do you draw the line? What more do your eyes and ears need in order to process and understand this moment as the end of American democracy?
Thank you.
Oh my God. Folks, could you imagine if this dimwit behind me here hosted like a longer version of this podcast? Folks, it put you to sleep. Very much like his columns do. But leave it to Max Pizarro to go to one of these vigils and pick out the sob stories that we've all come to learn about what we saw these past few days. Okay? And you can see the column there, obviously. If you need a cure for insomnia, you can read it, and it should put you to sleep. It put me to sleep. But folks, again, it was a staunch reminder from over the weekend. That the American left is essentially corrupted the conversation. And what they're doing for some time now is deputizing people into this sort of behavior. Again, two things can be right at the same time. It's tragic what happened, but it was also avoidable. You don't have to act like an ass and provoke law enforcement. When you do that, bad things tend to happen. And those are my final thoughts. Folks, a special comment coming tonight. Again, really, let's continue on, as I mentioned here, but what we saw over the weekend. And it's tough to believe that something like this got really politicized, but it shouldn't shock you. As I said before, in the days after the Charlie Kirk assassination on live television, not a peep from liberals at award shows or institutions other than ridicule. But many on the left and many progressives and the woke fools and the social justice clowns are all talking about, well, this is a mom. Well, guess what? Charlie Kirk was a dad. Did you care about that back in September? Many of you didn't. You need to own that. But what many of you on the left need to own as well, folks, is the fact that you're complicit in participating in all of these ridiculous anti-ICE protests. Where, again, many of you think it's a good idea to once again act in this manner.
Sidewalk! Move back! Move back! Stay there! Step back! Move back!
Folks, people think this is normal. There are people, whether it's standing in front of Delaney Hall and picking a fight with federal law enforcement, like U.S. Representative Monica MacGyver, who should go to jail. Make an example out of her. You want to be ratchet and act all ghetto? Live with the consequences. And by the way, shout out to U.S. Representative Ron Menendez showing some incredible deceptive strength. Folks, holding back that behemoth, that took some strength. So I don't know, bro, if you're either working out, working on your traps, chest, arms, I don't know, whatever. Folks, I got to tell you, Credit to Rob Menendez there, boy. Woo! Let me tell you something. That was very deceptive strength to be able to hold back that behemoth. Okay, making an ass of herself in front of Delaney Hall. Or others that decide to think it's a good idea to pick a fight with federal law enforcement, like you just saw there. Folks, it takes a quick Google search. Don't take my word for it. But we start over the weekend with ridiculous demonstrations. And again, very simple. It says it right there. This is why ICE is in your cities, folks, especially in blue sanctuary states and blue cities. You sat silent, a lot of you, for 4 years while you let millions of illegals pour into this country because of the recklessness of the Biden administration. Not a word. So guess what? Now it's time to clean up the mess. That's the truth, folks. A lot of you struggle with truth. A lot of you don't want to deal with that. But what did we see? We saw retards over the weekend acting like fools, somehow virtuously, and thinking that people like Fernando Uribe are wrong. No, I'm not wrong here. I'm not wrong here. I learned at a really young age, folks, respect law enforcement. And of course, look at these signs made from the folks, take your pick. The Democrat Socialists of America or Liberation Now or all these other left-wing socialist organizations who somehow mobilized real quickly. Man, these signs were made in record time. Jesus. Ever wonder how that happens? And who funds this? For a lot of you that lack critical thinking, put your brains to work on that one. You should realize that quicker than you think. But folks, again, that is what we saw over the weekend. Yes, it's tragic about what happened to Renee Good. It's tragic. It's heartbreaking. Okay? Her kids are not going to know their mother anymore. But folks, when you've been indoctrinated into believing that federal law enforcement upholding federal immigration law is the enemy, when 5 summers ago, what we saw was a consistent effort by some to demonize the police, so far as even calling for a defunding of the police. Yeah, how's that worked out in cities where you've defunded the police? And less of a police presence. Where have you seen that? Or liberal judges with cash bail and other awful policies that have ruined our cities and our states. When you fall enough for this indoctrination, it produces tragic results. Renee Good should have been thinking about her kids and not appeasing her wife or whatever other activists in Minneapolis that were looking to pick a fight with federal agents. Folks, two things can be true at the same time. It doesn't take much critical thinking. I know for some of you watching tonight, I know that's big, especially for a lot of locals, right? We have all these come mierdas, like in Jersey City, like Alex Trillo and Hector Segura and all these like body positivity women in Jersey City, or Caleb Burrell, or all these other idiots that opine on Outpost. You name it, folks. There's no shortage of retards and clowns that'll vilify conservatives and just vilify people that just simply want us to respect law and order. We're not the same, folks. Again, it's tragic what happened to Renee. But the truth is, it was avoidable. This didn't have to happen. By driving your vehicle into the middle of the street, by picking a fight along with your wife with federal law enforcement. Did you think that was going to end well? It clearly didn't. Certainly not the first time, and tragically, it may not be the last. And that's my special comment. Folks, that's our show for this week here. Once again, I want to thank the Honorable Councilwoman from Jersey City on the South Side in Ward 8, Denise Ridley, for her appearance tonight. A great conversation with her. And I really appreciate the topics we discussed here, and I really appreciate her candor. And quite frankly, a very illuminating and interesting conversation that you always have come to expect here with Real Talk via Jersey First TV. Of course, folks, front and center here, as I say it all the time, leading the way, educating and advocating for the residents here in the state of New Jersey. It's always Real Talk here on the Jersey First Television Network. And I can't say enough, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't done so already, like, comment, and share tonight's episode. And also make sure you follow us on Instagram and X. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, of course. Make sure you subscribe to us on our YouTube channel And also, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you subscribe to us on SoundCloud and Spotify. You can check out all the great content brought to you by the Jersey First Television Network. And always remember, folks, if it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid, it's real talk here on the Jersey First Television Network. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I am the generational talent in Garden State Media and your leader for trustworthy journalism. That's right, folks. It's me, Fernando Uribe. Enjoy the rest of your Monday night. Thank you for stopping by again. Don't forget to like, comment, and share tonight's episode. It really helps the show grow. It really helps show your support for fearless independent media, which is always here with Real Talk with Fernando Uribe on Jersey First TV. Folks, again, enjoy the rest of your week. Please party responsibly. Again, enjoy the upcoming MLK weekend. Again, look after your friends and neighbors. Again, stay warm during these cold, frigid days, folks. And again, thanks for stopping by. And always remember, stay classy, everyone.